episode, you're just going to have to stop me from going down a really deep, dark hole, okay? Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Women's Soccer Show. I'm Sara.
I'm Helen.
And that's the most cheery you're going to hear me all
That
day.
is it.
That's it. I just mustered up everything I had.
And we gave you 24 hours to recover. Can I also just
so
reiterate?
to all of you who are listening to this a little later on Tuesday, this episode is dropping late on Tuesday because I needed a moment to just mentally recover and digest. No, it was really just a scheduling thing, but I'm really happy that I had this time. I genuinely, Helen, I don't think I could have talked about this yesterday.
So now can you give me a mild pat on the back? Just like a soft, subtle pat on the back.
Good for you for talking about Team GB the day that they lost.
It was a very emotional speech.
It was a very emotional speech. Back when I was 8 years old.
You know what, though? I listened to it and I thought, I'm so embarrassed that I did this, because it's like when you feel sadness or heightened emotion, it's like you're drunk, so you don't actually have like control over what you're saying, so you're really upset.
No, totally.
So I listened back like the dread, but actually I listened back to it and then I was like, oh, and like I shared it with my dad and he texted me being like very insightful, and I was like, oh, thank God, because I was like worried I'd been gone, you know what, I can't take this anymore.
I just want to tell you guys this story. Remember, I was a kid and I learned a lesson and it applies here.
Isn't life crazy? Because time is such a healer. And you know when you're like, I never thought I'd get over the Euros final against Italy 3 weeks ago, and I'm already over it. I'm like, that was funny.
On to the next heartbreak.
Yeah, there's a photo of me in 2018 on my knees in Hyde Park crying after England got knocked out in the semi-finals against Croatia in the Men's World Cup.
Please find that.
It's
I want to
hilarious.
post it.
And now everybody always reshares it in my family WhatsApp. Like, remember when Helen cried in Hyde Park? It's like all of these things come back to haunt me because I feel it so intensely. And
were you 8? Is that when you learned the lesson?
I was 8
it was when you were crying on your knees and your dad
1998.
came and knelt next to you. Just like, I need to tell you something,
here, girl.
Helen.
I've got something to tell you, my friend.
Well, we're going to find that photo and we're going to post
hate
that to
you
socials.
more than anything. Thank you.
Officially, because it's absolutely amazing. And then I would like to do like a recreation of it and have like a side by side.
I can't relive that.
Of you.
No.
When you were little. I'll go to the park here. I'll find a park that looks like Hyde Park and I'll just recreate it myself and we'll have a little side by side of it.
You know that when I was little, it was 2018. It was only 4 years ago that I was crying on my knees in the park.
Like, I was in my 20s at that point, so I was little.
So let's go over the scores. I'll say the one that hurts the most. In normal time, Canada beat the USA 1-0.
Helen had Canada. I had the US, so that hurts more. Thanks for the support over there, babe.
Yeah, but remember, this didn't work for the Champions League where I just went with the opposite of everything you said.
Sweden beat Australia 1-0, 2 1-0 games. Helen, you had Sweden winning because you have Sweden winning the whole tournament, actually. I had Australia winning, but we'll come on to that.
Do you know what? I am really not into salt in the wound because I've had so many years of pain. I just want to shut my mouth and I'm going to let you go for it. USA v Canada, talk to me.
Okay. This was absolutely heartbreaking. And if I cry, I'm sorry.
Oh, at least I didn't cry on my GB analysis.
It's early in the morning. I'm just feeling a lot of things. No, that was a joke. I'm not gonna cry. Honestly, I think Megan Rapinoe said it the best. In her post-game interview, she was asked, like, what happened? Like, what's been going on this whole tournament? Because it's obvious to everybody that the U.S. just aren't the U.S. right now. So she was asked, like, what is going on? Like, what's happening? What's not connecting? And she was basically like, you know what? The joy just wasn't there the whole tournament. The space was there for us to play in, and we just couldn't connect in it. And I think that pretty much nails it. Like, you look back at all the past U.S. teams that won, or even at the past U.S. teams that made it pretty far in tournaments, and there was like a joy about them. I loved watching the U.S. in 2019 because there was a joy to how they played. You just knew that they loved being in that moment. They loved playing soccer together, and there's something so beautiful about that to watch, and it just wasn't there for some reason in this tournament. So, I mean, At the end of the day, did we deserve to lose this game? Absolutely not. I don't think so. Some people are going to argue with me. I don't care. It's not true. It's true. Like, we didn't deserve to lose this game. The Canada had 2 shots on goal and one of them was a penalty kick, which we'll get onto, but you know what? That's soccer and I have accepted it. It's been 24 hours and I have accepted it, as much as it might not sound like I've accepted it. And the main point is just like, even if we did deserve to win that game based on who played better, we did not deserve to win this tournament, or frankly even be in the finals of this tournament based on how we'd been playing in the entire tournament. And that's the hard reality of it.
I think that's a fair statement, you know.
This game specifically, at the beginning, the first part of the first half, like the first quarter of the game, for example, was pretty strong. Like, I was watching that the first 20, 25 minutes and I was like, we're really building on the last game. We look like we're kind of gaining a little bit of control, of momentum and how we want to play. We're pretty much dominating possession in Canada's half, which is something we've struggled with the entire tournament. We just can't keep possession for the life of us. We can't keep possession in the opposing team's half, but they kind of got control towards the end of the second half, and then the second half as a whole was just pretty ugly all around. I think that when you're going back to like what happened in the US, a lot of people are going to be like, well, we looked tired, and they're just going to blame our age and say that Vlatko brought the wrong team and we're just old. And I really just don't think that that's what it was. I think it was the joy piece that was missing. Like, when you think about Vlatko's options, he couldn't rebuild an entire squad in the past year of COVID. So he brought who he brought, and the next 2 years before the World Cup are going to be massive rebuilding years, but he brought who he needed to bring, and I don't think it was an age thing. Like, they're fit. They had minutes to spare. Like, I think it was a joy that was missing. It was something intangible that simply wasn't there. Maybe they needed Ashlyn Harris in the locker room. I don't know.
Are you saying to me, on the whole, I'm not talking about intricacies of person by person, but on the whole, do you think that Vlatko took the right squad?
For the most part. I don't think that necessarily like 1 or 2 changes up top would have made a huge difference. I think that, you substitute maybe one veteran who people are going to label as old and shouldn't be there or whatever for like a younger player with no experience. And it's kind of like they each have their downsides, and he chose the person who had experience, and it just didn't pan out. But I don't think it's because necessarily of like that person being old or a certain age. I think that if you'd taken, for example, a Midge Purse at forward instead of a Carly Lloyd, do I really think that that's going to make a huge impact on how this squad plays? No. Like, this team is fit. It was what it was. This was the team, and what I'm saying is that I don't think that the main factor that why we lost was not age. It was something intangible, like, that was just missing from this locker room. And you see it all the time with teams. Like, teams that win are teams that are cohesive, teams that have like joy and bond together, and it was missing from this team, and that's it.
I just think that outsiders from other countries in women's football specifically, let's talk women's football specifically, would argue not the age card, because Brazil proves that, age is just a number. Sweden proved that. Australia proved that in abundance, that age is just a number. But I think a lot of people would argue about the experience versus fitness versus game time argument. And I'd like to go back to, the shock that I had when I saw that Ellen White has played almost as many games for England as she has at club level, which is really weird and obscure in a professional footballer when you've played almost as many fixtures for your club as you have for your nation. But in that US women's national team squad, you've got a load of players that have played 3, 4, 5 fixtures between the World Cup final and this competition, like at club level. That's absolutely barmy army.
I think that you're building that up. I think that there were like 1 or 2 players who did that.
When you look across that squad, there are probably 3 or 4 players, and they're the ones that went to the WSL, that had a decent amount of competitive football between the World Cup and now.
Well, that's because of COVID. The rest of them played in the NWSL. There just weren't as many games.
But I think that's a factor.
Well, there's nothing they can do about that, though.
They can play in Europe. They can play anywhere on loan.
They can't all go to Europe.
They can.
No, they can't. What are you saying, that everybody in the NWSL is just going to up and leave and go to Europe, and just like that's going to be the demise of the league? The league was still running. The league was still existing.
For instance, the Challenge Cup. Rachel Daly played tons of fixtures between the World Cup and coming to the Olympics, and she started every game in the Olympics. But she played for West Ham on loan, and she played for Houston Dash, and she got her minutes in. And then Rapinoe, I think, is on 4 or 5 fixtures, and she's a decent Rain player. Like, she actually goes out and plays for her. I think basically, to come first full circle around it, I wonder if outsiders, including myself and other people that I speak to from the sort of UK fan base in women's football, wonder whether it's not an age thing, because it's not in women's football, but it's a thing of where has been your momentum? And like, do you rest on your laurels if you're Alex Morgan and you're Megan Rapinoe?
I think it's wrong to loop Alex Morgan in with a Megan Rapinoe there. Like, Pino took an entire year off and hasn't played in a lot of fixtures. Alex Morgan went to Tottenham immediately after giving birth, came back to the NWSL, has been a really strong force for the Pride. Like, she's been on it. So I don't think it's fair to lump her in.
How many fixtures has she played for the Pride?
However many Orlando have played in.
That would be my analysis over the age thing. If I was to say what has it been, I'd say it's been momentum.
But I just think that's so, first of all, unrealistic to say that everybody in COVID should have had the foresight to just up and go to the WSL, and that's also not possible. But, and also...
Not the WSL. Come on, dude. Australia, the W League, Sweden... Yeah.
Or just anywhere. Like, during COVID, like, I think that's just really unrealistic. And I will also point out, like, the NWSL was running, and they didn't have a lot of games in the fall, but these players got a lot of fixtures in, starting with the Challenge Cup. So, like, I think that's unrealistic. And also, I will say, like, when we're looking at what happened to the U.S. in comparison to other teams, like, other teams had players going through the exact same thing. Like, that's not specific to U.S. players. That everybody had a hard time getting games in. With the exception of players in the WSL, kind of everybody had trouble getting games in. You look at Canada, and the majority of their team plays in the NWSL. Like, it's not... I'm just saying it's not specific to the U.S., and I don't think you can pin how we played this tournament on that, because it's so not specific to the US.
Of the starting lineup of Canada, you've got PSG, Barcelona, and the WSL pretty much make up all of it. Christine Sinclair, barring a couple of players.
So you're saying that the US lost because the NWSL schedule?
I'm saying,
that's what you're saying.
I think a factor in the USA's demise at this Olympics is between 2019 and coming to the Olympics, they didn't play very much football and they didn't get very much game time in, but also playing on the major world stage, like playing in major competitions and major tournaments and major games could have been a reason. But then also that you're being selected basically on your 2019 performance. And in football, 30 years old is considered, maybe in your prime or coming to the end of your prime. 32 years old is considered you are an aging footballer. 2019, 2021, that's a big gap in time to talk about. And COVID, I get it. COVID was a major factor in world football, but not playing football at competitive level, I think has played its part. I really do.
I'm not going to argue that it didn't play its part, but I don't think that it's the main factor. I don't think that if a bunch of them had gotten in a ton more games, that it would have made such a huge difference. I mean, you look at the players on our team that even did go to the WSL, and they didn't stand out to me. Sam Mewis didn't even stand out this tournament, and she was a rock star in the WSL the past year. Like, I think it was a factor. I agree. I don't think it was the biggest factor. I think that the reason everybody's so frustrated and kind of confused right now is because nobody can quite put their finger. Like, I was even listening to Julie Foudy, who played on the women's national team, who commentates these games, who's so deeply entrenched in this team, talk about it. And she was like, I don't know. Like, nobody knows. Nobody understands yet, exactly what happened, which is the only reason, not the only reason, but another reason I think we can point to, just it's got to be one of these intangibles. It's really just, I as a sports fan outside of soccer, no one understand as somebody who plays sports, no one understand that you're not going to win a championship if your team isn't like cohesive. You're not going to win a championship like that. And there was no joy in this locker room. I don't think, to drive it home, I don't think it was the selection from Vlatko. I do think that Vlatko made a lot of mistakes, and I think that there's something that he's going to have to fix unless or something's going to have to change in terms of the head coach. Like, he started playing an incredibly defensive formation because I believe, my take is that he started playing an incredibly defensive formation because our back line was so weak. And he was like, oh, shoot, let me add some protection for this back line. Abby Dahlkemper had a terrible tournament. Kelly O'Hara had a terrible tournament. We have 3 out of 4 starting backs who are just not very fast. And he was like, shoot, let me add some protection for this back line. So he pulls the number 8 back to sit back with the number 6. And then that leaves the number 10 up high and a huge gap in the midfield. And now you're disconnected between lines. And all of a sudden you can't hold possession in the midfield. And that's what was happening to us. So if you want to talk tactically, I think that's what was happening to us. He was pulling people back from in the midfield to add protection for the back line. And that was leaving the gap. And then all of a sudden, there's a gap in the midfield and we can't keep possession. And I think he's left with 2 choices. Like, either say, screw it, we're going to let in the goals that we let in, but we're going to play this attacking formation, or take out Abby Dahlkemper, put Julie Ertz back at center back, let Lindsay Horan, Sam Mewis, and Roosevelt play in the midfield together, because that's frankly the formation that allows you to have the best players on the field, and just play like that. Like this what he's having us play, the style on defense, is leading into the lack of possession and the bad soccer that we're playing. I feel better now.
It did feel like, as an outsider, the game was lost in the midfield. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Every game. We had trouble keeping possession every game, and where we got beat mainly was in the midfield every game, and that's because we were so focused on trying to help out our back line.
And they were just outnumbered.
And then, as every soccer player knows, the moment you get caught so far back on defense, all of a sudden you get the ball and it's a struggle to get up the field because you're not already up the field. Now you have to have forwards that can hold the ball while your midfielders get up the field, and it just didn't work.
Okay, let's get to it. The biggest kind of moment of the game, or one of the biggest turning points, I think, in the game, was an injury to your player of the match from the Netherlands game, Alyssa Nair.
So hard to see.
It was hard to see as a non-fan, because anybody who has been this tournament, with people, judging whether they should be there at the tournament at all. I mean, we were saying it on our podcast and we were saying it on our social media. Why is Ashlyn Harris not playing? Saves this many penalties. Alyssa Nair,
I will
the doubters.
say I always said Alyssa Nair should be the starting keeper. I just said Ashlyn should have been the backup. But that's a perfect segue.
Oh, it kind of is.
Yeah, that was just so upsetting. I saw this morning an injury update, and she hyperextended her knee and has a bone contusion, but there was no word on anything related to an MCL and ACL, anything like that. So that's really good to hear, but still just really hard to watch. So sad to see. She's so big in major tournaments, as composed under pressure as this US team is, that had to be a knock to them. I'm going to defend Edie Franch for a second. I texted you immediately when that happened and said, well, it would have been nice to have Ashlyn coming in at this point. And I do stand by that. As a fan, I would have felt more comfortable with Ashlyn Harris going into goal than Edie Franch, but I'm not on the team. I don't know what happens in training, so maybe they felt extremely comfortable with Edie Franch. Moving into the penalty, though, I know a lot of people are saying, well, Ashlyn would have stopped that. And it's like, maybe, but also that was a really great penalty kick, and Edie Franch read it the whole way and she still couldn't get to it. And so to say that Ashlyn 100% would have had it, I think is wrong.
Can I play devil's advocate for a second? Because I think that we talked about mentality in the last episode. I think there's this thing about goalkeepers, and I guess strikers have it in a sense as well. They live for the big moments. When you saw Alyssa Nair between the sticks against the Netherlands, you just didn't doubt her. Like, her stature, her style, the way she stood. She looks terrifying. She's absolutely terrifying looking. And then the one thing you'll say about Ashlyn Harris is she has confidence. in abundance. She just like as a person, she kind of exudes it for Orlando Pride. And I just felt like on the sidelines when the injury happened and it kept flashing to Fran, she looked so nervous. She looked like she'd gone down in a meter in size. She looked small. She looked scared.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Like I remember during the penalty, like before, as the penalty was, being set up, I looked at the goal and I was like, she looks really small right now. She looks small, and I don't know if she's just like shorter or she just looked smaller. And yeah, I think that's a good point. I stand by what I said when I texted you. Like, I do wish that in that moment it would have been Ashlyn Harris. I really do.
She would have strutted onto that pitch like, here we go. She's just in for those moments.
Yeah, like, let's fucking go. This is my moment. Like, maybe would have pulled some Hope Solo stuff and like intimidated the person taking the PK.
All of that.
Just pulled out all of the stops, and it would have been really fun to watch. Like, she's like a showman too. But yeah, I mean, to the PK, I also think that was a great penalty kick. Would any keeper have gotten to it? If anybody would have, it would have been Ashlyn.
Let's talk about it. So I'm going to talk about it because I think that people at home will say that you're biased. I think that the penalty was a flipping Nora joke. I think that I was furious for US fans because, number one, it didn't get spotted in normal time by a referee, which just shows kind of the level of minutiae involved in that. Number two, in order for something to be a penalty, in my opinion, guys, this isn't the rules, there has to be intent. Like, as in, you have to be going in for a challenge or know that the person is there. And this came from somebody clearing a ball, seeing a ball in front of them with their back to open play and clearing a ball out of play for a throw in or a corner, and as they're kicking, another playing interloping their legs or their feet with the person kicking the ball away and therefore drawing the foul. Is it a penalty? Is VAR correct? Is the referee correct? Yes, it is a penalty by the letter of the law. Is it a penalty? No, because there's no intent.
I totally agree.
Davidson did not want to harm the player. I think it was Lawrence. They did not want to harm them. There was no intention to harm them. They were trying to clear the ball out of play. They didn't even know they were there. So you can't prepare for that moment because there's no choice from Davison other than I'm going to clear this ball out. So I just felt furious because...
For me, it's the fact that the attacking player was the one who entangled herself with the defensive player. Like, the defender wasn't the one who initiated any of that contact. It was the attacking player who did it. Weirdly enough, that was something that I just, like, accepted. It happened, and I was like, it's a penalty. Here we go. Maybe because we've been on the other side of that so much that I can't accept it because we've been the beneficiary of calls like that as well. But I totally agree with you. It was bullshit, and I hate VAR.
I think as well, the US players dealt with it really well because there was no real arguments. They kind of accepted it. And in my head, I went back to our convo about mentality and I was like, that is the most US thing ever. They still know they can win. Like, they've got this thing of, okay, it's just happened in the game and then we have to go out now and change the game. And like, I feel like I never saw a shift in mentality from there. Whereas when GB stepped up with Caroline Weir 3 days earlier, I felt a shift in mentality. I felt a difference in the air, like something changed. But with the US, nothing changed. Like, nothing changed from their side, and all it did was heighten and it just bolstered Canada.
Yeah. Oh, you've made me proud. You've just made me proud again to that. Even though we lost, made me proud of my squad.
Yeah, they dealt with it really well because they just did what they had to do, and you can't argue. There's nothing you can do to change it. One thing I will say that was so fascinating, the ball got picked up by Christine Sinclair in the box. The camera kind of panned off, and then Christine Sinclair must have, off camera, because I didn't see it, did she hand the ball to Jessie Fleming or...
She handed the ball to Jessie Fleming. According to my commentator, she handed the ball to Jessie Fleming in sort of it's your turn. Which is beautiful.
What a moment for Canada that is.
Even I just got goosebumps, and I'm really upset about it still. Like, that's a beautiful moment.
And wow, I on the commentary on our side was Farrah Williams, MBE, and she was just like, before the penalties being kicked, she was like, this is makes or breaks a career, like for Fleming, she's the future of Canadian soccer, along with other players, of course, but she's the future of Canadian soccer. It felt like passing the mantle on. I'm getting a bit emotional.
Yeah.
It felt
I
like
know,
passing the mantle on, you know.
goosebumps.
Christine Sinclair probably would have scored that and scores that for fun.
How big do you have to be? Like, how just like non-egotistical, like humble, comfortable, insecure in your accomplishments and just like everything, and such a leader and a team player do you have to be like, I'm the best player on this field, I'm the best scorer on this field, and this is the winning shot,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna let you have it.
With that ego comment, and I think that leads us neatly on to Canada. Bev Priestman is from where I come from in the northeast of England. She's from an area called Consett. It's about 30 minutes from where I live. And she's so egoless. So why it worked so well when Bev worked with Phil Neville is because he's ego. That's all he was. There was not actually much talent there. He was just ego. But Bev...
Even when Team GB is out, everybody, Helen finds a way to bring Phil Neville back into it.
That's all he was. He had no real ability as a coach and didn't really know that much about coaching. But it all came from Bev. She was so popular as a coach for England for so many years and in the England setup for so many years. And I just feel like she's carried that into her head coach position at Canada. It just feels like such an egoless team. Like it's everybody is in it for everybody. And can I remind you, we have the French title winners in that squad. We have players that have, you know, big personalities now, you know, that are in relationships with world famous footballers and are like very much in the public eye now. Like this Canada squad is also very much watched upon by Canadian people. Like there's a lot of tension there. Like the fans love this Canadian soccer team and they want them to do well. So there is pressure there. It's like probably the closest I could compare to being an England women's fan would be a Canadian soccer women's fan, because there's none of the major success, but there's all of the want and desire from the fans at home. And I just feel like Bev has taken into that camp an element of like humbleness and down-to-earthness. She's a working class girl from a working class area who's done good with her life, and I just think she just carried that in. And then I bet to the side of her in every training session, in every meeting, in everything is this woman, the goat of women's football, Christine Sinclair, who I just imagine just plays such a huge role off the pitch in just carrying the momentum and the experience to those players in that Canadian squad. And you just can't not like her, and you just can't not like what she's done. As soon as that final whistle went, Christine Sinclair walked around that pitch hugging all of her US friends, Carly Lloyd, Horan. Like she went around and she was humble and she was grateful and she was just such a wonderful presence on that pitch. In terms of the technical stuff, I think what Bev did really well is she managed the game and she started to show that she can do that. Not so much in the She Believes Cup where we were a bit worried about her, but so much in this competition has she managed to manage games out. And so she breaks it down into segments. And that last 20 was a work of art, because everybody said, oh, Canada's got their back against the wall. And I thought, in a way, but USA aren't producing much because they're really well organised here. So Bev didn't put them on the hot coals. They weren't going shit and running around like headless chicken. There was an element of organisation about it, and she just managed the last 20 minutes of the game so well. Took Christine Sinclair off at a really good moment in the game, and substitutions are a huge part of being a head coach. She subbed so well, brought on more experience, and just managed the game out really, really well.
Sweden, Australia came out 1-0 to Sweden. Australia played them, I think, very well. Credit to this Australia team. They just play with so much heart and they leave everything out on the field, and it makes them really, really fun to watch. At the end of the day, they just weren't a deep enough team and they just didn't have enough in the tank left because they couldn't sub that much, and they looked so tired at the end of that game trying to put one more goal away. It was like they're trying everything and they just couldn't pull it through because they were just absolutely exhausted. The few things I have to say about Australia are just to point out what we've already spoken about, so we don't have to get into it. But I think it was just so apparent in the last 15 minutes of this game that this is a problem. Their reliance on Sam Kerr when there doesn't need to be a reliance on Sam Kerr. That entire last 10, 15 minutes, it looked like any person on the Australia team who got the ball was just looking up to try to find Sam Kerr as their savior. And that's not how it should be. And it's too much pressure on her. And it's just not feasible, frankly. Alana Kennedy had an absolutely fantastic tournament for Australia. I just need to shout her out because she's kind of wishy-washy sometimes in the back, whether she was playing in the NWSL or the WSL. She's just not entirely consistent all the time, and I thought she had an incredibly consistent, really solid, really great tournament. Ellie Carpenter, young 21 Ellie Carpenter, who's already been playing for that team for like 3-4 years, is such a solid, bright, shining light for them. And it's really just unfortunate what happened at the end with that red card. And we won't get to see her in the bronze medal game, but she had a great tournament as well.
What do you do with your Carpenter in that 1v1 situation at the end? Do you do what she did? Do you take the bullet?
I don't, but I think that she might not have just might not have thought it through. I think in a competitive game, when you're trying to not let the other team score, that's the right thing to do. I think it was the final seconds of stoppage time. Just let her go and see what happens is what you should do.
I'm going to flip it around, and I was really interested because before going to this game, I really thought Sweden would walk it. Australia were exhausted against GB, and Sweden obviously had played only 90 minutes before that and looked really like they were kind of walking towards the end of the Japan game. So I really, really thought it would be a bit of a breeze. Australia's game plan is just so obvious. It's almost like he should have just like held up a piece of paper above his head and gone, okay, and now we go into the pressured section of the game. So they would pressure and then they would relieve pressure and then they would pressure again at kind of heightened moments in the game. So from the 40th to the 45th minute, Australia really pushed. From the towards the end, they really pushed, and they knew if we concede a goal, we remain on the same level that we were playing at before the goal went in. We don't freak out and panic because we know our pressured moments are coming up. So we're going to do a 5-minute pressure there, then we're going to regain energy, then we're going to do a 5-minute pressure there. But I thought Sweden really managed that well towards the end of the first half. They managed Australia's advances quite well. It should have been going into extra time because there was absolutely sweet FA wrong with Sam Kerr's goal. So free kick coming in. It was like, as a GB fan, I was reliving that moment. It was coming in from the same angle that they scored in the 89th. And Sam Kerr is just so good at taking those balls coming in from that angle. So she was just ready for it, puts it in the back of the net. Nothing wrong with a bit of physicality in the box. I have no idea for the life of me what the referee saw that was wrong with that. So I feel for Australian fans because it should have been 1-0 to Australia at that point. Sweden, I was disappointed in, but then again, I just wonder whether they had, conserving energy, knowing that we're going to be going in against a really tired Canadian squad or USA squad, and they were looking towards the final, and they knew that they could do it by just being consistent in that game against Australia. They knew that consistency would play out. And also, I said it to you before kickoff, the last 20 minutes, I think Sweden will walk it. And they didn't, not quite walked it. They got a couple of offside goals go in and hit the bar and missed an open goal and stuff. But the last 20 minutes, it was against, dead people. Literally, Australia's legs were wobbling. And so Sweden knew, we're 1-0, let's try and get another. But if we don't, let's just walk it to the corner flag. All in all, it wasn't an exciting semi-final.
I enjoyed watching it, though. It wasn't that exciting, but I did enjoy watching it. I think I just wanted anything after that game. I went back to sleep for an hour, and I had a dream about the women's national team losing. And then I woke up and was, bitterly grabbing my computer, fine, I guess I'll watch this game, too. But then once I started watching it, I was happy I did.
Have you checked out Total Football Analysis yet? TotalFootballAnalysis.com provides researched analysis on loads of football games, including women's football. Want to know why Miedemar scores so many goals? Do you want to explore how City have turned it around this season? Head over to TotalFootballAnalysis.com and sign up to learn more about the beautiful game. We have a special discount for listeners of the Women's Soccer Show. At checkout, type WOSO10 to get a full year for €10. That's €40 off the yearly subscription. Head over to totalfootballanalysis.com and type WOSO10 at checkout.
I think that we should talk about that quick preview of our predictions because I think you're spot on. I think USA have got the bit between their teeth. They need a medal. They don't just want a medal. They need a medal. Vladko needs a medal. This is not a drill anymore. Like it's medal or death, frankly. And I think the USA will go out with literally all guns blazing and they may just demolish Australia. I think, personally.
I just have to say this. The dagger in the heart, the salt in the wound was here I am. I'm like, I know the gold medal match is at 10 p.m. on Thursday. Probably the bronze medal match is at like 7. That'll be such a nice evening for me. I'll just watch both games back to back. I go on, I search it, and guess what it says? It's at 4 fucking a.m. again. I thought I was done with those. We're not done with those. We've got one more, and it's the bronze medal match. And it's 4 a.m. Eastern on Thursday, and that's really messed up.
Going on to the gold medal match, I said it in our preview episode. I thought Sweden would win the Olympics. I think Sweden will have too much. I think we'll see the Sweden that beat USA in the final. I think we'll see that Sweden again, but with an additional Magda Eriksson. So extra firepower. I think it could be comfortable.
I agree. It's going to be Sweden. Maybe to make it interesting, I'll say Canada.
2-0 Sweden.
I just can't. I agree. I think it's been Sweden's tournament. And I think that they will just take it home. I do think that Canada's going to put up a good fight, and I think they're going to play them well. I think it'll be 2-1 in extra time. 2-1 Sweden in extra time.
Going on to our predictions, this really has been my tournament. Miedemar with 10 goals is probably going to walk away with the golden boot.
I'm sat at 1 with Iwabuchi. I'm still proud of my pick, though. Happy we went there. Golden glove, I'm really excited about. So you have Hedvig Lindahl of Sweden. She has allowed 3 goals. I had Barbara of Brazil. She had allowed 3 goals, but unfortunately they're out of the tournament. However, Stephanie Lebay, the opposing goalkeeper in the gold medal match, Canada's goalkeeper, has also only conceded 3 goals. So whoever wins this gold medal match, that keeper will get the golden glove. And that's really exciting. I love when it lands that way.
And then the final 2 teams, we had obviously both guessed. I guessed Sweden, Netherlands. Netherlands are out. You guessed Brazil, USA, and both of them are now out.
Womp, womp, womp.
So really,
it's just
me with Sweden.
If Sweden wins, you got it, and if not, we both we're just played straight up wrong. Thank you to everybody who submitted their brackets with in our partnership with Total Football Analysis.
I bet no one got it.
If anybody got it, I don't know. We should bring you on the podcast
should be the new
and talk to you about what was going through your mind, please.
Some Canadian fan out there is like, I got it. Well, that has been our semi-final episode.
I feel better. I feel like I'm at the point where I could even potentially be rooting for Canada in this final. Just to take it to you, mainly.
I want to win my £57, thank you, that I put on at the beginning of this tournament for Sweden to win.
Wow, I forgot you did that. You really did put your money where your mouth was.
£57.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
I'll probably spend it on Lucy Bronze memorabilia. Have a great day, everyone. See you for the finals. How exciting.
Our finals episode will be dropping either Friday or Saturday. We'll let you guys know.
Lots of love.
Thanks, everybody. I've been Sarah.
I've been Helen.
Bye.
Bye.